Hi everybody and welcome to Just Saying. It is January 20th, 2014. I'm Kim and I'm joined here as I am every week by my lovely co-host Mary. Hi Mary.
Hello Kim. I love it when you say my lovely co-host. I want to look around the room like, who's she talking about?
Lily.
That's true, Lily's lovely.
Belle.
Daisy's around here somewhere, and of course we all know Marlowe's snoring, but he'll be yodeling soon. So, it seems like forever since we've done a live show together.
I know.
Wasn't it like last year sometime?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We haven't done a show since last year. And we can get away with saying it too.
Yes, we can.
There's our mascot for the show, Sammy. It's because she hears my voice.
Yep.
So during our 2 weeks off, besides holidays and all the other good stuff, what have you been up to?
Dealing with stalker cats.
Yeah, tell me about those.
Well, one showed up, little tiger stripe, and for almost a month this thing would peek in the windows and stand at the door, and you'd catch him from his nose up looking in the windows and looking in the doors and all this kind of stuff, but wouldn't come near me. I put a box out there because it was stinking cold outside and didn't want him getting deathly ill, so I put a box out there with a couple raggedy shirts in it to give him something to lay in, and I was giving him a quarter cup of food every night before I left. Well, apparently he's told his friends, because then I had a second one show up, and about the time the second one showed up, the first one decided, okay, she can touch me now. The second one is a snuggle bug, but insane because she doesn't care who it is, and if you're walking in the door, she wants to walk in the door with you. Not gonna happen. She's already gotten in twice.
But she wants to be with you. And I'll tell you what the ringer is. You've got the dinner bell going on there. Once you start putting food outside, everybody becomes your friend.
Well, it's not like I'm putting out a lot or there's any leftovers.
Not the point.
Well,
it's there.
I decided tonight, okay, fine, I'm tired of playing with you two, so I put it on the side, not on the porch anymore.
Yeah, but you made the connection, and now they know you love them, and blah, blah, blah. That's how it starts.
Well, actually, the second one is more in love with Eric.
Well, now, who wouldn't be,
He showed up, and she became his best friend about, 2 minutes?
She knows good things when she sees them.
And last night, a little black one with little black and white tuxedo one showed up, and I'm looking out the window and it's peeking, and I'm like, oh no, we are not playing this.
Well, point is, you got it now. I started out with one cat, and I made the mistake of seeing this little mommy cat outside who was too little to have kittens, and I felt sorry for her, and I put food out there. 3 litters later, and a litter of skunks. I literally had skunks eating out of there too. I learned my lesson.
Yeah, skunks like cat food.
But they're now your clan, and they're going to stay there.
Well, I almost got rid of the second one today. Some lady came in, and apparently her son's cat just died, and she went outside, and of course she's rubbing up on her because she just loves everybody, and she's like, such a precious cat. I said, want it?
You sound like Rick now. Every time somebody comes in and says, oh, take it. Oh,
well, I mean, she's a sweet cat. She really is. But she trips me on the porch. I don't need her tripping customers as they're trying to get in the door.
Well, maybe if she trips them in, and as they're tripping in, they're seeing something that they didn't realize you had in the store. So there's a positive behind everything. Anyway, yeah, it seems like we're getting busy with animals. I got a new thing I'm working with these days.
Really, do tell.
I got a new hoodie on. Now, everybody knows that I'm heavily involved in rescues. I don't always go out in the trenches. Most of the time, it's just passing emails around. In my area, I'm known as the Persian and Himalayan guru. Gee, I don't know where they got that from, but I got tagged. So anytime there's a long-haired cat that needs rescue, it ends up in my emails, my Facebook, and everything else. But I work with many, many rescues, but I don't belong to any of them. And a few months ago, and you know how they always say there's things that happen for a reason? Mm-hmm. One of my friends shared this particular rescue, and it's called Red Paws. I got to get this right. Emergency Relief Rescue. And they're known as the Red Cross to animals. In other words, if your house catches on fire and burns down and you can't live there anymore, gas leak, some kind of catastrophe that hits your house that displaces you from your house and you have pets, a lot of these shelters that you go to or the insurance company pays for hotels for you to stay in does not allow pets. And what are you supposed to do with your pets? So we come in there, we take your pets, we foster them until you're able to be reunited. And God forbid if anything happens to the pets, like they get burned or there's something falls on them during the fire, Red Paw actually pays for all the vet care. And the one thing that really drew me to these guys was, with all the rescues that I deal with, there's so many sad situations out there, and it's really, really hard sometimes, and it weighs heavy. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be taken care of, because I deal with them all the time. But this particular one has happy endings, because 99.9% of the time they're reunited with their owners. And can you imagine, Kim, something happened over here or over at your house there, and you couldn't be with your pets because the house was not livable? Can you imagine Sammy, Jimmy?
No, I've had
that you couldn't be with them.
I've had Spanky for 18 and a half years now.
I know. I can't imagine what it would be if I couldn't be with my 5 cats. And I would have some peace of mind knowing that there's people out there that would take care of them as I would take care of them myself. So that's what this organization does. It's all run on volunteers. It started with a female Philadelphia firefighter, I think like 2.5 years ago, where she got called to a fire and the house burnt down, and the people are standing there holding their cat and their dog, and they didn't know what to do. And so she started this rescue, and it just seemed to grow and grow and grow. So that's what I'm doing these days. And Friday night I was able to go to my first event with them. It was a pet expo. Boy, did I get an education on all the different dogs that were out there. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I'm up to.
Well, do I need to mention my second cat is long hair and needs rescued?
No, I got my full over here, but I'd be certainly happy to try and find one for you. Anyway, we do have a really good show planned tonight. I think we're still trying to locate our guests at this point.
Yeah.
So we can talk a little bit about, and I noticed I see we got Swampy in the chat room. Let me see, who else do we have hanging in there tonight? We got Swampy, we got Sal and Jen, Debbie from Arizona, and of course Ducky. And if push comes to shove, I know we can get one of them to call in tonight to help us with some of the things we're going to talk about. So never fear.
Right?
I know.
Oh, and today someone came in who's fostering a dog who wants me to take it. Yeah.
I think oh, come on.
She's beautiful. She is absolutely beautiful. It's a 2-month-old pup. I have 2 dogs. We've already tried a 3rd dog. That did not work.
Uh-oh.
So, no. I mean, she's gorgeous. She's black with a white bib and white crust on her nose. She's a 1/4 black lab and 3/4 pit bull. But she is the chunkiest little thing. She is so cute, but no. She's beautiful though. I mean, for $150, it's all her shots and her spaying in 6 months.
There you go. Anyway, one of the things we were going to talk about, we might as well move forward. And if anybody wants to call in, they can certainly call in and join in on the conversation because we're all paranormal investigators out there. But our guest tonight, if we get a hold of him, is Michael Esposito. And one of the reasons why we were going to bring him onto the show is Kim and I, we've had a lot of, well, I won't say a lot of experiences, a few experiences lately on my trap cam, which we spoke about probably a few shows ago, which is why we were going to, what?
Huh?
Did I lose somebody?
No. We love Heidi. We love Heidi.
Oh, apparently Heidi just came through with Michael's phone number.
Oh, we love you, Heidi. Whoever. But one of the things that we're picking up on my trap cam that we've never picked up before is temperature changes. Instead of going down, the temperatures are going up. And that's quite unusual.
First of all, we're catching temperature changes when the camera goes off.
Right.
Which we didn't before. But now we're noticing that. And I did figure out what happened with these doors.
Okay. Well, I think Eric has those pictures, so I don't know if he's going to pop them up or not.
It's up.
It's up? Okay.
I'm not sure whether this is the first one or the second one. This one's 57 degrees.
All right, well, let's give a little bit of background of what these pictures are. I'm not seeing them, so I'm just going to wing it from what I know Eric has. Back in November when I went out to Texas, I spent a whole day and a couple hours of another day at Kim's shop. And she's been talking about having issues inside of this one particular closet.
Yeah, the storeroom.
Yeah, the storeroom. So, of course, we had to put the trap cam out there.
Hello?
Hi, Michael.
What?
Hi. How are you?
I'm lovely. And yourself?
Oh, you're always lovely, though.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, the world's best hugger, Michael Esposito. Michael Mary. Mary Michael.
Hi, Michael. Pleased to meet you. We actually started the show. We got through all our animal stuff because Kim and I are animal nuts waiting to talk to you. But I hear you're a very interesting person.
From who?
Rumor has it.
Well, I got the check, so I told her that.
Oh, I just say you shouldn't read everything you see on Bathroom Wall and believe it.
Oh, I can see where this interview is going to be going tonight. It's already in the trash can and we just got started. No, actually, when Kim and I were
right
talking...
out of the gate.
That's right. Hey, what the heck? Okay, well, we might as well just... No hold barred. We were just starting to talk about something that's piquing our interest, and Kim has told me that she spoke to you about this, and it's piquing your interest too, at the fact that going out on a location, and I'm the one with the trap cam, and I get the temperature changes now that are going up, and we've never seen that before. And I think Kim said that you've seen that happen.
Yeah, well, up and down. It's any kind of change in temperature or the atmosphere at all is noteworthy. I know there's a lot of common speculation and beliefs from long ago about temperature changes going down or one particular direction or what have you. But in the work and research I've been doing, I found temperature changes both directions, and basically energy being energy can be manipulated either way. I mean, we know that there are different factors in energy, such as energy voids, where actual energy holes or temperature changes would go down based on the idea that energy is actually being sucked out of one position or one place and replaced into another position or another thing. Also, we've noticed that energy can be sped up, atmospheric particles can be sped up, slowed down, and manipulated in a variety of different ways.
Well, we just found
that's what you're talking about, I mean.
We just found it very interesting that most people, I feel the cold spot there, there's a spirit here. But almost every time we've used this trap cam, it's actually gone up, not down. It's not like a cold spot, it's a hot spot.
Correct. Basically, light energy attracts. Without going too far back or delivering the point, we as human beings were about 60-odd chemicals and some low-level static electricity that has an imprint or a signature that the energy itself is contained in a particular area, sort of a cloud-like formation, by the fact that it's light energy. It has the same persistence of memory. It has the same information encoded on it, and the same amounts of energy, if you will, that that the rest of the energy that came from that particular entity has. Now, if that energy is to try and order its universe or make sense out of a new environment, it's going to attempt to recreate itself into something that it knows or recognizes. In Lausanne, Switzerland, they just discovered the part of the brain that actually is affected by phantom limb movements. In other words, like an amputee who's lost an arm or a leg, still thinks the leg is still there and functional, still believes he could pick up a cup with the arm that's missing. And there's actually a particular part of the brain where that electricity or that information is stored that seems to be reacting. Because you realize the brain doesn't actually do anything but store energy. That energy is what is encoded with information. That information is things about our character, things about our abilities to function, our movement, and even genetic code. As the same school in Switzerland just came out with a report I saw last week that they believe that DNA not only transfers physical characteristics but also personality and memory traits. So in other words, the memory your great-great-great-grandmother had passed through the DNA, the electricity that's passed through the DNA along with the chemicals, can actually maintain or remember some of that memories or personal information from the 2 generations or whatever number of generations before it.
I'd like to ask you a question. Well, question, maybe opinion, however you take it. I've been told by a few people that they don't believe in past lives, that they think that information that we're getting is actually being passed down, just like you said, in our DNA from ancestors. How do you feel about that?
It's a very strong possibility. I mean, this is paranormal. This is parascience. These are questions that we need to entertain, and to be able to properly entertain them, we have to look at all the theories. I mean, my main body of research, as you know, is in electronic voice phenomena. There are people, and there's some form of thought, and I entertain the thought as well sometimes, that it's quite possible that we're projecting the energy that creates the EVPs ourselves. In other words, the EVPs we're capturing are actually thoughts from our minds or minds of other observers in the room. That energy.
Okay.
Now, how can I believe that EVP is both? At the same time, how can I believe that it's the voice of a disembodied soul or spirit or ghost, or it's my own thoughts being projected? And how can I honestly believe both school of thought and live with myself, but be true to my science? And the fact of the matter is why couldn't it be either or both? We don't know. So these are something that if we're going to be honest researchers with ourselves, we have to look at all of these options.
Okay, I got a side question on this. Do you think it's possible that at times what we consider deja vu is actually a memory of an ancestor?
Key question.
Like you're right, yeah, like you go on a trip and you're like, I've been here before, but I've never been here before. I've seen this before.
Right, and what if it's more than that? What if it's not just actually the memory of an ancestor? What if it's something your ancestor read or dreamed about? What if the ancestor, what if your great-great-grandmother had always wanted to go to Holland, okay? And she dreamed about Holland all the time. And that dream, even though she's never actually been there, that dream and the pictures she's seen on maybe film strips or books or what have you, what if all that actually gets transferred down and somehow in some very confused form comes through as this embodied memory that we mistake as a past life or a fragment of a past life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's just take it one step further. It may not even be real. Maybe it's a real or supposed memory.
Right.
Something to think about for sure. I find it interesting what you were just saying about the possibility of EVPs coming from our thoughts. Telekinetically, we're responsible for a lot of things, and there is a possibility, because think of it this way, and how you put it is during an EVP session, we're actually almost thinking up the answers, and then you get something.
Yeah, we've actually done many experiments with that, where we put a question in an envelope or a particular answer, and then we would lay the envelope down and have people think about what's in the envelope, what the question's in the envelope, and listen to see if we come up with an answer in EVP. The question is very, very clearly the question is where scientific research and ghostly phenomena research actually combine. Is there a separation of it? I mean, if it's true that energy can never be destroyed once we die, that our energy still exists in sort of a microcloud type format and still has the ability and the memory to be able to function, who's to say that doesn't still interact with actually the living, and to the point where it can latch onto our energy and try and function through us? Like we often capture, at least in my research, we often capture what we call voice borrowing. It's kind of like a audio doppelganger, if you will.
Right.
It's an EVP that comes through in our voice of something that we didn't say. And it's something I call voice borrowing. Now, who's to say that it isn't really us saying it, but it's being us used in memory through our energy by some other entity, spirit, if you will, or whatever, trying to find as much like information in our energy to be able to attach onto us.
Interesting.
Energy is encodable. Energy it's like a flash drive. The information that's stored on the flash drive is all created by electricity. That's where the actual information comes from. The flash drive itself is nothing more than a storage unit. It's transistors, And if that is the case, then is it not possible if like energy attracts that certain types of energy might find more like energy in certain entities than others? That's why we've been doing this ongoing experiment for some time now about collecting EVP from people's ancestors. Because if that persistence of memory, that electrical information is passed down through biologically giving birth and through the family tree and through the bloodline, then is it possible that communicating with ancestors provides clearer and more fruitful EVPs than some other family, out there, or some other family tree?
Okay, Michael's got me speechless.
I know, I was just going to say the same thing, that he has me totally speechless, and nobody ever has me speechless,
right?
Michael. I can always come up with something. You can't see me, but everybody's sitting there looking, saying, boy, he's got her stuff. She doesn't know what to say. I have so many things going through my mind right now, I don't even know which way to take this. So we should just have you do the interview, and Kim and I'll just sit here and listen.
Well, to change the subject, but not change the subject, as far as memory goes. I know Michael has made a CD of hospital noises for a particular hospital. But I also know you went back and found the original equipment for the bells and whistles.
Right. It's a series of CDs. I mean, I'm an experimental musician as well, and I built CDs that contain not only EVP but sounds and the physical structure that I capture them in, like the walls and the windows and stuff. And I build them into a composition, sort of an audio-archaeological snapshot of a particular environment, or a phenomenological approach to collecting EVP. But also, I do a series of compositions that I call frequency-specific recordings. And these frequency-specific recordings can be either object-specific, situational-specific, or target or person-specific. And what the idea is that the frequencies that exist in the world, now frequency is waveform, waveform is energy. So what we're talking about when we talk about frequencies, we're talking about energy. Okay, now we know that this persistence of memory, this incarnate soul, this incorporated memory or energy, needs other energy or like energy or seeks like energy, maybe not in an active sense, but just naturally to be able to communicate. Now, if that's the case, then waveform of a lot of the types of frequencies we find today, such as microwaves, cell phone towers, fluorescent bulbs, computers, a lot of that frequency that emits is an unfamiliar waveform or unfamiliar energy to an entity that might have lived in the 1800s or even the 1970s. Okay? So the idea was to infuse a room or flood a room full of frequencies that would be more familiar to that entity.
Right.
And like with the hospital, the South Pittsburgh Hospital test, or the John Mowat lumber mill test. So John Mowat, he was pretty much built Denver. He was a Scotsman who came over and set up some of the first lumber mills. Well, they actually have a reproduction of his lumber mill out there, which I recorded the sounds of the saws and the different types of lumber being cut that would have been cut during his lifetime. Bagpipe music of things he would have heard when he was a child back in Scotland, things like that. And I built them into a composition. Now, when I do these compositions, I'm free about my composition because the order of the frequencies doesn't matter as much as the desire to have the correct frequencies to be able to saturate an environment in. So I can freely build compositions to make them, on one hand, an entertaining piece of experimental music, on the other hand, a very valuable research tool. So it's a perfect marriage of art and science.
Okay, do you make, say, generic type ones, or are they all location specific?
Right, they're all frequency specific. I mean, yeah, I could go out and dig in a graveyard in the dirt, but the makeup of the dirt in one cemetery is very different than dirt in the other. Bachelor's Grove is mostly clay.
Right.
St. Michael's Cemetery in Hammond is black dirt. There's some that are more sand. I mean, the chemical makeup of different, I'm real specific when I do this. When I do this, I take everything into consideration, and I'm very careful to make sure that it's all true and accurate.
Well, see, my thought there was, and Mary will know exactly where I'm going with this, is if you've, done anything with, horses on cobblestone or dirt roads, the sound of the old wagons, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was during a particular Civil War battle, and it didn't get finished, but I actually had to go through and figure out exactly which bugle call 5 platoons were used in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
What types of things transpired? The battle over a bridge, and there was a small minor cavalry charge attempt across the bridge. There was certain calls throughout the day, and you can find out the information of exactly what calls were played throughout the day and what types of calls would have been. In fact, YouTube's fantastic for that, because there are these Civil War fanatics that know the types of bugle calls that were done for different battles by the particular brigade or platoon that was there, because they had different calls depending on what. In fact, Edison himself was just, when he had invented the cylinder phonograph record player, was absolutely complete nut over sending people out. He had a whole team of people sent all over the world to record people, like Florence Nightingale and P.T. Barnum. And these recordings are all available from the original wax cylinders. One of them that they recorded was they found one of the actual buglers from the charge of the Light Brigade in the Crimean War, which is also known for Florence Nightingale. But he actually used the bugle that he used in the charge of the Light Brigade, okay, and actually the correct bugler, the actual fellow with the actual physical diaphragm and the lungs and everything that was actually there, playing the charge that he blew for the charge of the Light Brigade. So if you ever what an invaluable tool that is, frequency-wise, for someone who might be wanting to investigate that part of the world in Europe.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, see, what I was thinking is Mary spends a lot of time up at the Shanley Hotel. I've been there a few times, but, I mean, there's this road that goes up right next to the Shanley to where it was horses and, the old Model A's and carts, but it was also a hotel and a bordello and all this kind of stuff, and, we're all about Iroquois, and I thought, that would be a cool idea with the horses on the cobblestone.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole time I'm listening to him, Michael, we've done up at the Shanley Hotel. It was very prominent back during the day of Prohibition. They had the gentlemen's quarters. They had the bordello going up above the gentlemen's quarters. So one event that I had planned there, we actually did, and I don't know if you're familiar with the term, the Singapore theory, where we dressed up back in the day. The guys were the gangsters. The women were dressed up like bordello babes, rappers, that sort of thing.
Now, I wonder what kind of frequencies you would need to capture for bordello.
I don't know. The only thing that we could use. Stop. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm trying to be serious here.
Eric giggled first. It's not my fault.
No, the only thing that we had for sound-wise is somebody brought a couple CDs of the music that was recorded back then. It even sounded like it had the scratches on it and everything. We didn't get a lot in the EVPs, but we did get a lot. Well, we got a couple good EVPs, but we did get a lot of personal experiences. Some video that was quite unusual for us to get up there. But mostly it appears that the women were quite curious about the gowns that we had on, the nightgowns that we had on, because there were some that were saying, somebody's feeling my, my robe and this and that, because the material is so much different now than it was back then. So it'd be so cool to get your sounds and put it with something like, say, if you were back at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, wearing the gowns that the patients wore back in the day, or the instruments that the doctors wore and had, and their gowns and things. It would, putting it all together, I think it would make for one awesome investigation.
Well, actually, I was at the hospital one night when we played Michael's CD, And let me tell you, Michael, I had been there 5 times prior, and 10 minutes after we played your CD, I got to see the Shadow Man for the first time.
Oh, beautiful. You know, it's odd, too, because as much as I've designed those to be used for electronic voice phenomena, there's an inordinate amount of actual physical and personal experiences that people have using those, which is kind of sad because I do get good EVP out of it, but really phenomenally, there's a lot of amazing. I mean, the rooms just light up. It's just like I can't even tell you how crazy it is. Laptops lighting across the floor, lights flickering, cameras flickering on and off. And, well, you've probably heard the stories.
Right. Well, we were doing teen night up there one night, and it was me and Cricket and a bunch of teens who were up there. And we had them all up on the 3rd floor along the nursery and the psych ward. And Cricket and I were all the way back by surgery, and we had the camera and everything pointing down toward the psych ward. And 10 minutes after the CD stopped, Cricket and I were the only 2 out of 14 of us up there who saw it, but we both saw it leave Nellie's room and cross the hall. You should have seen us looking like idiots. We thought Doug did it. We were tearing through every room in that 3rd floor trying to find it, and we never could find him.
Huh.
But that's the first time. I mean, I've been there 5 times already, and everybody talks about that shadow guy, and I never saw him until that night.
Well, the concept seems to work then, but it's an excellent idea. I think it's wonderful. Oh, and as far as EVPs and things up in the bordello, we have some good ones, Michael. We'll share with you sometime after the show.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, didn't you also, during your thing up at the Shanley with the Iroquois, wasn't somebody playing the piano and apparently played it wrong because when they stopped, the music kept going?
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's on YouTube. And I can't even... Is there a flare to... Not, I forget the name of the song. But he has, like, up at the Shanley... Have you ever been to the Shanley, Michael?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, he's got this old-time piano, and it sounds like an old-time piano. And somebody was sitting there, and they were playing...
piano? Or?
No. It's a regular piano, but, I mean, it looks like it's from back in the day. I mean, it's
one of those... it's one of those you would see in a Western.
Yeah, it's really old. And so he was playing this song that you would have played back then, and he stopped, but while he was playing it, people had the K2 meters all around him, EMF meters, and every time he would stop playing, the K2 meters would go off. Well, we thought, okay, maybe it's his cell phone. He didn't have a cell phone. He wasn't around any electric, okay, whatsoever. There was nothing except him and this piano and the light overhead, but it was one of those hi-hat lights. And every time he would stop, the K2 would light up like a Christmas tree. Well, anyway, he stops playing. The thing's gone crazy, the K2 meter, and somebody in the group left their camera running on the K2 meters, okay, because it was just so unusual. These things would not stop. It was like they were applauding him. Well, unbeknown to everybody around, because we couldn't hear this, when this person was playing back, reviewing her video, the song played over again, only the tempo was different. Somebody else was playing, and nobody was at the piano. It's on you can look it up on YouTube, and I have to find the link and what they have it listed under. But it's really cool. Oh yeah, we were trying to debunk it, saying the girl had her camera on, and somebody else had a recorder. We were doing everything to say, but you could clearly hear when he was playing the music versus nobody was playing the music. It was played just a little different, a little slower. Emphasis were on different sections of the music on what the original person was playing. It's really cool.
It was played properly the second time.
People can play a piano and it could be the same song, and because of their particular ability or style, there's going to be a different two different people singing the same song.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's where I said, if somebody had their recorder going and was recording him playing it originally and then added it to the video, it didn't sound the same. So that was my clue right there, that something, this could be for real. So yeah, we'll get you the link. I have to look it up.
Oh, it's good. Well, remember, it's all about energy.
Yeah.
The different quantum physics of energy. I've done so much, oh my God, I've done so much work and research in the theories of quantum physics in sound and energy. Microsound theory, granular cloud synthesis. Oh, geez, so much. And it's such a natural fit for this whole concept. If you look at beyond the mortal coil as being what's left over, i.e. energy, what exists, what remains.
Well, I'm gonna bring up your ancestry and where you actually who are descendant from, and that's probably could go hand in hand with what we were talking earlier about having memories from our ancestors passed down to us. And it might be a good reason as to why you're so involved in what you do. But we didn't really give you a proper introduction when the show started because we started the show without you. So I'm going to give a little introduction as to who exactly you are as we're getting close to the end of our show. Our guest tonight, so we're going to... That's right. We can't say you're related to a Yeti because we already have a Yeti in here. But anyway, for those of you that are out there listening that are going to listen, we did bring our guest in kind of quick, and we didn't do it formally, so I'm going to do it formally now. Our guest that you're listening to tonight is Michael Esposito. He's a descendant of Alfred Vail, who invented the Morse Code and several early telegraph devices with his partner, Samuel Morse. The invention of the telegraph sparked the spiritualist movement of the middle 1800s, and the telegraph was used in spirit communications. Another ancestor, Jonathan Vail, was office manager and assistant to Thomas Edison, and in his later years attempted to develop a device for communicating with the dead. So there, Michael, I'm putting it right back to you, how sometimes we can pick up some of our DNA from our ancestors.
Nice. You wrote that, didn't you?
Well, I copied it.
Well, not all of it, because there's some things that's nice. But yeah, you can send me that. That's beautiful.
Well, we have to thank our producer for that one. he's the best. That came from Eric. But I couldn't let that go because of what we talked about earlier. And Kim and I usually, we do open, before we bring a guest on, we do a nice little thingy, but you just kind of slid into what we were talking to, so we went on with the show. So what are your thoughts on the fact that you have ancestors that were so much in the communication field and then realized, hey, let's try and communicate with the spirits, and here you are today?
Oddly enough, I have a master's degree in communication theory and undergraduate degrees in public relations and it's okay. Sorry about that.
And we were just getting EVPs, that's all. You can just chalk it off as an EVP.
Yeah, this is electronic voice similar, but to answer your question, most of my formal education is within communication theory, communication work, and I've always had an affinity towards it. I would believe, I'd like to believe that quite possibly through the bloodlines and whatever, that some of all of that did feed through to me. Again, as with most quantum or para sciences, it's fairly speculative, and the best you could do is the most accurate theory you could possibly develop and the most pure empirical research that you can do. So yeah, I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, you know, there's no definitive answer. I think that I've always had an affinity towards it. And oddly enough, other ancestors, my cousin Mark Vail actually was one of the founding structurists. He's one of the people that put together the Broadcast Museum in Chicago 20 years ago, 25 years ago. You know, he was always involved with promoting old-time radio programs. My whole family line on my mother's side, who's the Vail, has always been knee-deep in communication, research, and work.
Yeah, I think it follows. My son is a police officer. My father was a police officer. My father passed away 2 years before my son was born. They never met.
Right.
And yet he had this desire to go on to be a police officer. I don't even think I talked about my father being a police officer because it used to worry my mom so much. You know, I wasn't about to, you know, pass that one around. But he went full force. So
yeah,
you might be onto something. Sorry, Kim, I interrupted you.
No, Eric just wrote this. He said Michael makes a living talking to the living, and talk to the dead is an interest.
Yeah, there you go.
One more time.
You make a living talking to the living, and you talk to the dead as an interest.
Right. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is you know, drawing the line between the living and the dead is like drawing the line between aunts and uncles. I mean, there's no reason to believe that the personalities of the dead are any different than the personalities of the living or as they were when they were alive. I just got done doing, like a year ago, I just did a huge research project that turned out in a flexi record and some other audio material based on insane asylums, Mantino Asylum in particular, and schizophrenia, and LSD, and psychedelic music. And one of the things that schizophrenics always claim that ghosts and spirits steal their thoughts. And if you know anything about the housekeeper's dilemma, the housekeeper's dilemma is a theory that says that the housekeeper cleans the house and then turns around the house is out of order again. The rational man, okay, when placed into a new environment, has to order his new environment in order to function in it. Schizophrenics can't order their environment, okay, and that's why they're schizophrenics. Now, I built this whole work, this whole research, and near the end of this work I was doing, I found a graduate paper by a student out of Cambridge or Oxford, I can't remember which, but it's cited in my work. And I've done this whole paper on exactly the same thing that I was suggesting, that it's possible that schizophrenics actually have one foot on both sides of the veil. In other words, one foot is actually in the land of the spirits of the dead or that particular energy, where the other foot is up in the living side of things, in their energy. And they can't ever order their universe. They're constantly suffering the housekeeper's dilemma because they're constantly flipping between the living and the dead. That's why they feel like ghosts or spirits steal their thoughts and their words, actually.
Right. Last time you were on our Friday show, we had discussed this. After the show, and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was my brother and I, we put the EVPs of Mantino Asylum of these very possibly potential schizophrenics that we captured, you know, things like, he's my baby brother, I'll follow you home, I'm going to come home with you, I'll follow her home, I want to kill you, You know, I killed my mother, or I saw them kill her, stuff like that. EVPs, all like that, just crazy stuff. And some crazy stuff in the final. But the whole idea was, is it possible that these EVPs, some of them didn't come from a schizophrenic who, while they were alive, were literally stuck on both sides of the veil, and then once they reach the other side, do they function more clearly because they have some experience there? Do they find solace and peace, or what have you? Now, we know LSD, when it was invented at the Sandoz laboratories in Scandinavia, was originally as a treatment for schizophrenia. But unfortunately, they found that LSD actually emulated schizophrenia. And a natural drug, which runs through our minds anyway, DMT. Now, DMT is found in nature, and it acts very, and LSD is really a synthetic DMT, but it's in our brain, and it moves around ideas and thoughts. It moves around that information to different parts of our brains, like the synaptic nerve endings, you know, with the synaptic firing. Now, the other thing DMT is known for, and this is really interesting, but one of the things that DMT is also known for is it's attributed to the lucid dreams that we have, the lucid dreams, rather, that we have, where we feel like what we're dreaming is very real. When you have that extraordinarily real dream, it just seems really strange.
Right.
Some laboratories that have been doing a lot of work on dream research discovered that there were heightened levels of DMT during participants' more lucid dreams, or more realistic dreams. So it blurs the change between the waking moment and this altered state of sleep consciousness, or maybe the other side of the veil, if you will. Okay. Now, as a schizophrenic, if LSD emulates schizophrenia, and DMT is a natural form of the synthetic LSD, and psychedelic music was actually designed as music that was supposed to emulate the influences of LSD. Okay, then we have this long, direct relationship. And oddly enough, a lot of the musicians, famous musicians that have written and performed quite a bit of psychedelic music, is also known as a very high level of schizophrenic madness involved. Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd, Brian Eno, who else? 13th Floor Elevators, that fellow. I mean, a lot of these psychedelic bands actually had their main members actually suffering from schizophrenic madness. And to take it one step further, a lot of the songs that the psychedelic music was actually designed to emulate the LSD also has themes of insanity or schizophrenia. And so I wrote this very long lecture and stuff, and I built this whole relationship with schizophrenia and actually people who are one foot on each side of the veil.
So, in your opinion,
the album is called Maladjusted of Mancino Asylum.
So, in your opinion, are schizophrenic technically ill, or have they evolved?
Is it an evolution, or is it just a malady? You know, that's the question. It's like, you know, what is evolution and what is madness? You know, I think it's very, very possible that these beings, these humans, are caught on one step on each side of the veil. And there are other researchers out there at universities coming up with the same ideas, apparently, because I found some of the research, which was quite strange to find. But the other question, too, is this an evolutionary process? Is this something that is a higher order? Or is this something that is an anomaly? You know, or what do we do with this information, actually? I mean, do we try and attempt to learn or glean anything from schizophrenics about the other side? Or do we observe them amassing? Or, you know, I mean, surely it's a better choice than the frontal lobotomy or Thorazine. But the question is what are they experiencing? Because a lot of times they don't realize it themselves because they can't order their universe. And what does that say about what we have to look forward to or hospice? You know, how do we prepare for dying? You know, do we realize that once we get there, we're going to be in an environment and we're going to have to somehow find a way to reorder and reorganize so we can function in it? You know, that could change. I mean, those thoughts could change the whole way people look at hospice.
Right.
You know, there's no more running to the light. You know, now it's all of a sudden it's another type of reality that we may be able to somehow adjust ourselves to and be aware of and find some way to be able to function and not have such a traumatic experience once we die.
Now he's throwing me again.
I know.
And I had a question then. Dang
You
it!
could have jumped in on that one, Kim.
I had it.
Stole it.
I had it and I lost it. Okay, there's a question in the chat room anyway. It says Sherry's wondering if you know if there's a connection between, say, someone with seizures, a seized state, and a psychedelic when the synapses aren't connecting.
That's a good question because people don't really. I have a friend, well, I have a friend who suffers from horrible epilepsy, and you know, I've done grand mal seizures and minor seizures and stuff. And the question is what role does that play as far as brain function, and what do brain function plays in you know, activity on the other side of the veil. I mean, if you look at it as energy, then yeah, the energy that we carry around with us while we're alive, that works in the brain, that may malfunction and cause epileptic seizures or other types of seizures, or cause such maladies as schizophrenia or even bipolar disorder. You know, what role does that play with the energy of the dead, so to speak? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do I attempt to answer that question?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. Sometimes I have to check with myself.
I could go so many ways with that one, but I won't. This is a family difference. He thought I was the quiet one.
Right?
Oh, gosh. Anyway, I hate to do this to everybody, but we're out of time.
Well, before you let Michael go, I have to remind him I still am available as your roadie. Just saying.
Absolutely. Always looking for new roadies.
Hey, you know, I've been offering for, 3 years now? Eventually you'll take me up on it.
You know you're always welcome to tag along with me, too.
Yes.
Well, I want to come too if she's coming.
Absolutely, the more the merrier.
Where are we going, Kim?
Switzerland. He goes to Switzerland all the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've always wanted to go to Switzerland.
See there?
Australia, too. We would go to Australia. Yep. Anyway, Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Definitely have to have you back on because you just are like, you're like a wealth of information. And after I get through that wow factor of earlier, because Kim and I just sat here like deers in a headlight. Where do we go from? But no, it was a pleasure. Anybody wants to get a hold of you? How can they? Well, we know how to get a hold of you, but the rest of the people out there don't.
They can reach me on Facebook. You know what? Feel free to publish my information, my email, address, phone number, whatever. And you have my new phone number now.
And he does reply to private messages on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm going to look. I'm not sure if I have you on Facebook. If I don't, definitely will now.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, and PhantomAirwaves.com is the website that's sort of kind of getting there. And so it's PhantomAirwaves.com. And also, if they want to go on Discogs, discogs.com, my releases, a lot of my musical work is under Phantom Airwaves or Michael Esposito.
Okay.
Well, Michael, you know I love you, man.
No, I love you too. And the new one too as well.
Well, we're just one big huggy, lovey group tonight, aren't we?
I told you he's the world's best hugger.
Lots of love here.
That's right. And he's from Effingham, Illinois, which isn't too far from my hometown, so it's all in the area. That's right.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got to run, but thank you, Michael, and I'm definitely going to go hunt you down on Facebook.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me on again, and I look forward to the next time, baby.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Boy, am I smiling.
Me too. I love Michael. I always have.
I enjoyed that. That was so much information, and you know, you don't realize how much you can get into. I think I'm starting to become like a parrot geek all of a sudden.
Well, he finds the most interesting things to work with. I mean, there was a picture of him with a violin bow on a human skull. He was actually playing the vibration across the nasal cavity.
Well, you know what? I really wish I knew him back when we did that Singapore theory at the Shanley. Because, now see, Liz, she's in the chat room and she's listening to this. Liz was part of that investigation that night where we dressed up. And Michael actually does CDs of not just music, but sounds and effects of that time era. How cool would that have been to have that going on in the background when we were doing the investigation dressed like we were? That would have definitely been something. Anyway, next week, our guest is...
I don't know. Let me get my...
I know who it is.
Oh, I know who it is. Wait a minute.
Should we just leave it mystery? No, go ahead. Spit it out.
Our guest next week is psychic Texas-born Tracy Ray.
Yes, so you want to come back here and join us for that show? And what do we have up and coming tonight? Because I'm lost.
Arwen's on it. Arwen and her show, You Never Know, is on at 10 p.m. Eastern.
And Arwen does a really good show.
And you can, in between now and then, you can go to PEN2 and check out all the great shows that are playing over there tonight, which are Lillian Moustier's show, A Visit with a Person of High Strangeness, and 2 episodes of Cooking with Jack. We brought back Cooking with Jack.
Ooh, I love Cooking with Jack.
And one of them's Eggplant Something, so I'm pretty sure Mary will go watch that.
You know, don't laugh. I got eggplant downstairs, and I'm going to make eggplant parm tomorrow night, so I might switch it up.
Oh, don't you even play, lady.
Anyway, I have a great big shout out to the kid. I love you. He's my #1 fan, and I'm his #1 fan. So there you go. Also, check out...
She has to read it upside down.
No, I wanted to show the whole thing. It's Red Paw Emergency Relief Team. I'm part of the team now. And do all of your shopping at...
Metaluna Boutique and Stones. And I've got some new stuff on the website, so check it out.
Yes, yes. Anyway, I think that's it for us. So I'm going to say goodnight.
Mary's got a reason to say goodnight. I know what it is, but I'm going to be nice and not pick on her. So, I'm going to say goodnight too.
All right, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.